Hey everybody, this is Michael once again. Alright, so this video I have a quote from Tolstoy, pardon me, and he once said, "Everyone thinks of changing the world, but no one thinks of changing themselves." So that is, if you think about it, it's pretty true, because everyone talks about how they want to go out and change the world, and they, want to go out and do what's right, and, change the opinions or minds of other people so that way they can sway them to the right side of history. But that, that's kind of a arrogant, you know, mentality. Because what that is, essentially, that's saying that the world is wrong and I'm the one who's right. And a lot of times that shows real lack of awareness, self-awareness, and and just general arrogance. Because you really have to stop and kind of evaluate yourself and just be like, you know what? Am I the one wrong in the situation? Am I the one who's making the situation worse? Um, One personal example I have is I have a friend, and he, I used to, I used to have some respect for this guy, as in like I thought he was pretty intelligent, um, and after discussing some, it got heated. A subject that can be um, a bit strenuous. I don't know how to really put it. It can be um, it essentially he it became apparent to me that he was more about being right than actually being correct, if you know what that means. And what I mean by that is, like, instead of understanding that what we're talking about, this social issue, we were trying to discuss, what was the correct thing to do. And the correct thing to do is, you know what is most beneficial to the largest group of people. Now, of course, there always will be one or two people, maybe even demographics, that will kind of slip through the cracks for whatever reason. But he got so passionate and so heated in this argument. Um, I, it became an argument. It was no longer a discussion, and then it became a debate, and then it became an argument. And he was just so, like, determined on being right, on winning the argument, and that's not necessarily, it's not really ever good. And so he then started kind of having straw man argument, reaching for the straw man, as they say, and he was just trying so hard to prove that his point was valid, and that his point was right, and that he was right, and he could not accept the fact that he was wrong. And I provided him a couple examples. I'm like, well, actually, statistically, this, and then historically this, and so, by this account, what you're saying is, like, I can see what you're trying to do, but unfortunately it's not correct. And he got so furious with that, and that's when I kind of realized that at no point in time would he ever stop and kind of consider, do my point of views need to change? Do I myself need to change? And that's something I'm very beneficial about, because I have a wife who's also very intelligent, and she sometimes asks those questions, and of me, about my stances, about my views, and then I will have to be like, oh, you know what? I didn't have that perspective before. I didn't have that thought before. Um, and you should always give yourself time to reflect, and that's one thing we really don't have in society. We don't ever cherish self-reflection, or do it, or encourage it, or really in any means. And Michael Jackson, many years ago, did a song called "Man in the Mirror," and he's like, "I want to make a change. I'm going to start with the man in the mirror," and that's what that's how you change the world. Um, that is, Dr. Jordan Peterson. He talks about, if you want to change the world, you want to, do right by society. First start by cleaning your room, and that is how we change things. That is what we need to do. We need to take a moment, kind of make sure that we are aligned mentally, spiritually, emotionally, all that sort of stuff, and um, so that way we can try and when we go out to fight the good fight, that we actually understand what we're fighting for and understand what is too far in that fight. Because once you get into the argument, once you get into the debate or discussion, it is very easy to get caught up in it and to be passionate about it. And passion can be a good thing, but it's also a very, very destructive thing. And like, Star Wars, I'm sure I've quoted Star Wars many times. They talk about the road to the down the dark side starts with passion, which then leads to anger, which leads to hate. Because passion can be something that drives you, but drives you to what end? And that's one thing we always have to be aware about, and that's where the self-reflection comes in. That's where we need to just take a moment and just kind of check ourselves, check the steps that we're taking, and check the path that we're on, and make sure that this is what we're trying to do, this is what we want to do, and this is ultimately beneficial for more than just us. Because a lot of people will get into an argument, or a debate or anything like that, just to kind of prove their point. Whether their point has any validation in society or in the grand scheme of things or anything like that, most people just want to be right. And just be careful of that, because you may win the argument, but ultimately, will that actually do any good? Will that bring about that positive change that you were arguing for? So, just keep that in mind, and just keep on doing what you're doing. But always take that moment of self-reflection, like take a couple minutes of just by yourself, and like truly by yourself. Sometimes it's nice to, not have anyone around, so that way you can, take that moment of self-reflection. It's very important. So once again, Leo Tolstoy, everyone thinks of changing the world, but no one thinks of changing themselves. So I hope everything's going well for you kids, and I hope every day is getting a little bit better, a little bit easier for you. Take it easy.